Okay, hello and welcome everyone. We've got a critical mass of our registrants on now. So thanks for joining us today. We're very excited to have Cheryl Aikman with us to talk about planned giving. I've got just a few announcements before then. My name is Ben Underwood. I'm serving as chapter president this year and very excited to be doing so. First of all, I want to acknowledge our sponsors for 2021. We're very fortunate to have supporters like these that allow the chapter to offer the programming that we are able to offer our members and to others. Our title sponsor is UNC Asheville. You saw that in the PowerPoint presentation that was on rotation as we were beginning. And we're also very happy to have AB Tech back as a sponsor again this year. So thanks both to UNC Asheville and to AB Tech for your sponsorship of AFP Western North Carolina. I also want to promote March 17th. We've got a great program with Diane Carlson, who's going to be talking about managing the ask, the essential steps of a major gift ask, soliciting major gift donors. So please register for that event. Quick note about it. Normally we meet at 11:30 on Wednesdays, on the third Wednesday of the month. This program will actually be at 12:30. So a slight change there. And also, major announcement. We're having a members only gathering immediately following the March 17 program. So that program with Diane Carlson will run from 12:30 to 1:30. And then at 1:30, there'll be a members only gathering to help us connect to one another, discuss the program that just happened, but also maintain the relationships that are so important to all of us through AFP. So an email will be going out shortly after today's program with registration for that separate members only session. So for March 17th to attend both, you'll need to register for the paid event as well as for the members only gathering, which is free to members. Those are my announcements. Does anybody have any questions before I turn things over to Kelly to introduce Cheryl? Okay. Thanks everyone again for being here. Please have your cameras on as much as you're able. I know that helps us all feel more connected and engaged. And with that, I'll ask Kelly Shanafelt, who's our VP of Programming this year, to introduce today's speaker. Take it away, Kelly.
Thanks, Ben. We are very excited to have Cheryl Aikman with us today. Cheryl led asset development, planned giving, advisor and affiliate relations, and nonprofit fund holder services at the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina for over 21 years. In her last 5 years at the foundation, her work resulted in $136 million in contributions and creation of over 400 charitable funds, gift annuities, trust and expectancy agreements. Her volunteer roles have included service to the Advancement Network for Community Foundations, the Council on Foundations, the North Carolina Planned Giving Council, the Land of Sky Estate Planning Council. For 8 years, Cheryl served as a peer reviewer for the National Standards for U.S. Community Foundations, conducting rigorous policy, program, and operational accreditation assessments. A Phi Beta Kappa graduate of Davidson College, she holds a master's degree in management of nonprofit organizations from Case Western Reserve University. She is a William C. Friday Fellow of the Wild Acres Leadership Initiative. Cheryl lives in Asheville with her family, and she currently serves as a trustee of the Southern Highlands Conservancy and in the leadership of Grace Covenant Presbyterian Church. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my gosh, thank you all. I can't tell you, like, the lift already just from seeing so many friends and colleagues. Just seeing your faces has made me so happy. I'm so honored to have been asked to present to you all. There, I would say that over half the folks out there could also give this presentation and have just as much wisdom to share. But it's a pleasure to be asked to do it, and I hope that you all will join in when you have something to add and in support. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Everyone cross their fingers, please. And we're going to get this presentation going. Okay. Excellent. Here we are. 6 great ideas. Is everyone seeing what they think they're supposed to be seeing? Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks for the affirmation. It's really helpful. I think there are 6 ideas in this presentation, but there might be more. They might not all be great, but we're going to talk about them anyway. So just a little introduction on what I'm doing now. A little bit about that. I have created a firm called Alenda Consulting that's doing a lot of different things, all centered around nonprofits, pretty focused on planned and more complex giving, but also still very centered in many ways in community foundations. I, in addition to doing my own work, I am very, very honored to be affiliated with 3 other esteemed consulting firms in our complex, planned, and community foundation giving space, Charitable Solutions, Extra Mally Clance, and the Heaton Smith Group. And that is proving to be a great deal of fun. Let's talk about your donors. And let's talk about what it means to move them from annual support, campaign support, major gifts into what we might call a planned gift. Most of us, when we hear the term planned gift or the way we've encountered it, it means gifts at death, gifts after donors have left us. But I don't necessarily embrace that definition. I really believe that planned gifts are just gifts that mean they take a little more effort, a little help, a little expertise for folks to complete. That might be a gift that can occur next week. It could be a gift that could occur next month. But it's just a gift that's not made on impulse. That's really what I believe about this kind of gift. If a gift is deferred, that means the donor has put something in place to make a gift happen, but it's not coming today. It might be at a particular juncture in the life of an asset they hold. It might be after a number of years, and it could be at the end of their lifetime. When I use the term legacy gift, I think of that as a gift that certainly is going to come after the donor's lifetime, but also that is something that is wrapped up in perpetuating their values, often has an endowment component or is completely endowed or is being contributed to an endowment. In other words, it's a gift that will have no end point, even though it comes to you after the donor's lifetime. So those terms all get used somewhat interchangeably, but I particularly want you to hang on to the idea that a planned gift doesn't necessarily have to mean, or even perhaps should mean, only gifts that donors can make at the end of their lifetimes. So I have a few facts for you. The average donor writes their first will at age 44. These are from the most recent Giving USA study. 53% of donors set up their first legacy gift in their first will. So think about this in terms of how you're messaging across the age spectrum of your supporters. And the average age at which donors make their first planned gift is in their 50s. Now, those are donors we're talking about. So we're not talking about people that you're trying to bring into the fold. Those are probably represent some of the most inclined folks. But those ages might be younger than you expected. Most legacy gifts come in a simple arrangement, and the simplest arrangement is folks who will remember you in their will. And we're going to talk about that some more. If any of you are not yet familiar with the work of Russell James, I encourage you to get to know him. Russell James is a professor at Texas Tech University. He is the leading researcher on the brain science and the intrinsic character-driven motivations for charitable and planned giving. And he shares almost all of his research absolutely for free. He has a wealth of science and data-driven research to share, and he wraps it all in really, I believe, the wrapping of someone who truly understands philanthropy. What Russell James has been able to teach us is that charitable giving is rewarding. Rewarding like receiving a gift, not giving one, but receiving one, like receiving money. It activates and uses chemicals in our brain to create those feelings. So Russell James actually put people in MRIs and enacted transactions with them and watched what parts of their brain were activated. The chemicals and the brain activation centers that occur are the same as occur in social attachment bonding. In other words, these are family social relationships that we're creating with our donors, not transactional relationships. And the more we can appeal to that sense of family, to that sense of social connection, as opposed to a market or a contract relationship, the better things will go. Donors want to feel like our family. Their response to us is the response that occurs with family and with their closest relationships. How do you do that? You make them the hero of the story. You emphasize that your donors can be heroes for those you serve, not for the organization itself, but for those you serve, and center that dynamic in the stories you tell. You talk simply, without technical and market terms. You can use the power of the social example, show them that peers are doing the same thing you're asking them to do. Use a tone that you would use if you were talking to a beloved grandparent or elder. So family words, authentic, transparent, and informal. And you keep that communication going. So if you don't take anything else away from today, take away these things. First, look up Russell James. He has hundreds of slideshows available on SlideShare, absolutely free. You can click through them. There's so much you can learn from those resources. Second, your donor wants to be a hero. They want to be a hero of their own story, and they want to be a hero in the story of the people your organization serves. And third, be simple. Be simple in your communication, use family words, and be authentic in what you're asking from your donors. What can folks do for us during their lifetime? They can give from their wallet. They can change the designations on documents that control other assets, beneficiary designations. And for donors over age 75 and a half, they can give from their IRAs. So you're probably wondering why we're even talking about gifts from people's wallets in a presentation about planned giving. We're talking about these gifts because of the CARES Act, an act that was passed in response to the anticipated economic crisis of the pandemic, but that has been extended through 2020 and into 2021. A couple of things. You've probably heard about all of these, but they're worth reiterating, and it's worth remembering that these go through this calendar year as well. Everyone, even those of us who don't itemize our taxes, can take a deduction for gifts to charity. $300 for individual filers, $600 for couples. That is available to everyone. Tax advantage for gifts of cash directly to organizations. You can't give it to your donor advised fund. You can't give it to private foundation. And that might represent an opportunity to upgrade annual donors by making sure they understand how they can take advantage of that special provision. It also increased the limit on cash donations so that folks who give cash to charities, again, not to donor advised funds or related complex organizations, but directly to charities, to 100%. So I can deduct all of my adjusted gross income if I make an equivalent direct cash gift, cash being something out of my wallet, to an organization. Most of us are not going to see a donation that wipes out someone's entire adjusted gross income. But it does mean, even for donors who may usually give appreciated assets or give from a donor advised fund, there may be a special opportunity for them to use cash for their annual gift, an upgraded annual gift, or even a much more significant major gift in a way that hasn't typically been possible in prior years. When you upgrade annual donors, and if you see upgrades from annual donors and you think it might be due to some of these factors, that's an indication of affinity and ability and an open door to a different and further conversation. So I encourage you to look at those gifts as they come in and think about what folks are trying to tell you about their ability, affinity, and desire to help your organization. IRA qualified distributions have been around for a while. QCDs is the shortened hand that we normally see. And these rules have stayed the same, but it's worth reiterating. Donors must be 70 and a half. They can give up to $100,000 each year. The amount they give counts toward their required minimum distribution. I'm going to come back to that. Keep your eyes on that green writing. There is no charitable deduction for this gift, but donors pay no income tax on what they distribute in the way that they normally do on assets that come out of their IRA directly to them. So let's go back to that. The amount counts toward the required minimum distribution. There's a confusing element that's also related to the CARES Act, and that is that folks don't have to take IRA distributions until they're 72 now. So you've essentially got two groups of folks. You've got folks who turned 70 and a half and started their required distributions before the rule change, and you've got folks who can wait until they're 72. And there's, people who are right in the bubble who may not even know when they have to start taking those required minimum distributions. The age for qualified charitable distributions didn't change. So in terms of your messaging, you can stick with folks needing to be 70 and a half. Even if they're not taking required minimum distributions yet, because they're, say, 71, they can still use that resource as a way to give charitably. This can interact with that new cash rule in some interesting ways. That's probably something for donors to work out with their own tax or professional advisors. But this is a way of giving that we should all be continuing to talk about, to share with our donors. And I personally have seen a great deal of confusion around that age change. A lot of assumption that because the age for distributions went up to 72, that the age for making qualified charitable distributions also changed, which is definitely not the case. I do want to talk about one kind of life income gift, a gift that donors can make now that pays them an income and has a charitable benefit later, because it's simple, it can be accessible to any organization, and it's one of my favorites. It's called a charitable gift annuity. The diagram here shows you how assets flow. The donor makes a gift to an organization that provides charitable gift annuity contracts. That could be here, the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina. There are national gift annuity platforms. There are some of the larger commercial banks and that also can provide support for this. That gift is invested and managed. The donor receives a tax deduction and income payments for life according to a set actuarial table. And after their lifetime, the charity receives what's left over. I love charitable gift annuities because they're flexible, they're easy, the income is guaranteed, they work really well for our most elderly donors. They are often very attractive to older women, and who we all know are the best donors. And they are easy to establish if you have the right partners. At the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina, if you're interested in something like this, or you want to know how it might work for your organization, Becky Davis is an absolute expert. And you should absolutely be chatting with Becky about how you could provide this kind of giving opportunity to your donors. If you want to know more about other kinds of providers for this kind of program, I can help with that. And I put my information in the chat box at the beginning of the presentation. It'll reappear at the end. Again, easy, flexible, accessible to any charitable organization with the right partner, and lots of great ways to use these for donors. So now we want to talk about things that people can set up during their life that can happen later. So these are transfers outside of a will and outside of transfers to heirs or to other charitable interests. These arrangements span, again, lifetime and planning for later. Stock, retirement accounts, and other assets that pass by beneficiary designation, like life insurance. So these are gifts from investments. These are gifts from assets that people have likely seen appreciate over time. So those, wait, I'm going to go back. I'm going to keep that picture up for a second. These assets are tax advantaged because the appreciation on them can often be excluded from taxation through a gift arrangement, or because you can make a provision for the transfer of these assets without tapping into the asset, which means people have full use of what they've earned and saved. They have the security of that for their lifetime and the joy of giving something that makes them the hero for your organization. Again, think about stock, think about retirement accounts. Those can be broader than IRAs, although IRAs are certainly the most common vehicle that we're seeing now. And think about beneficiary designations for other kinds of assets like insurance. Folks can give lots of other things too. That's something that I've been working on more in my consulting role. Gifts of real estate, gifts of business interests, gifts of art and collectibles, and even gifts of virtual currency. Virtual currency is having a moment, which you might know. And you might be surprised who has invested in virtual currency among your donors. These are not the assets that you want to concentrate on in your communication. But when you hear someone who loves your organization talk about an asset like one of these, it is an important cue to you to make a mental and then a note in the database about that so that you can come back around to that conversation. You can let them know that these are assets that are possible to give. You can provide information on how they might think about using these assets for charitable giving. You might keep track of the mentions of these assets and the other life events of your donor and look for the ways those will intersect. When a business gets transitioned to another generation of leadership, when folks tell you that they're getting close on the waiting list for Deerfield, which means a real estate transaction is likely in their future, when they begin to talk about the other art, the other things they've acquired that they are wondering what they'll do with as they downsize. All opportunities and door openers for you to say, I don't know what you're thinking about that asset, but if there's a way to use it to support our organization, would you want to know more? And for you to, in your hip pocket, have the partners in the community, in your peer group, in this organization, who can help you when they say, well, yes, I would like to know more. Tell me more. You don't have to know all of the details. You don't have to know all of the tax implications. You just need to know that this is possible and that your donor could become the hero of their story and potentially of your story. IRA designations, a way for folks to include you in retirement or other assets. Simple, doesn't cost anything, doesn't take any assets away from them or their families, only provides for you if something is left after everyone else has used the asset as they were intended to. A great thing to be reminding people of consistently. All right, so later. IRAs are kind of the bridge to later because those are definitely gifts that don't typically, beneficiary designations, somebody has to die for that to occur. So gifts that folks plan for that could only occur after their lifetime. These are gifts that occur in someone's will. So, we don't share with doctors as charitable folks, we don't share the first do no harm adage. But I think if we could have a mantra like that, it might be encourage people to have a will. I always felt like when I made presentations to donors and prospective donors about including charity in their will, if I got somebody to write a will, I had done a great service to them, whether they put charity in it or not. And if they included charity, all the better. So encourage people to have a will first, or to have whatever plan is right for them. Encourage their charity in their will. Coming from a place that is helpful is so important with this. You can remind them about the why, and you can remind them about the how. You can make it easy for them to access the information they need to include your organization on your website, in your materials, on your envelopes, on the back of your annual report. Reinforce that message. And if you and your message mean that someone creates the plan that is meaningful for them, that helps them take care of their family, you will have done a great service. When someone includes your organization, well, then you've not only done a great service for them, but you've done a great service for the organization that you're serving. And for, most importantly, the constituents who will benefit from that. We talked about IRAs. We talked about using beneficiary designations for IRAs and other kinds of retirement accounts. Those are gifts that flow after someone's lifetime, after those resources have been used for family members, heirs, and others. We talked a little bit about the kinds of assets that are more complex to give. And many of those can also be planned for a gift at death, real estate, objects, and collectibles. These gifts are harder, frankly, to accept after someone's death. There's more administrative work to be done. And if folks say, I want to leave you my house, that begets a future conversation or two about how that's going to work and if that's the right strategy for them and for your organization. If you're an organization that can use art, in your mission, then those may be absolutely wonderful gifts for folks to leave to you so that they know that their precious objects have a place to be. Those of you who accept those kinds of objects also know that creating the right relationship with your donors to record and ensure the transition of those objects is important. So stewardship. This doesn't have to be complicated. And these resources are all about creating relationship over time. And this gift dynamic is all about creating relationship over time. Talk to people like their family. Recognize them as if they are family. I feel like this is the place where people can, where many of us as gift planners get distracted and bogged down. And I don't know about all of you, but I had some of the most amazing conversations of my life in the nonprofit world at the beginning of the pandemic when I was just calling people to check on them. I vowed that I would not forget the power of those conversations and the power of me simply treating people as family, talking to them in simple, authentic ways of reinforcing my personal care for them and our organization's care for them. You don't have to have an elaborate package of materials, a fancy legacy society event, because we can't have events anyway. But could you write one handwritten note each day? Could you identify the 10 people in your database who are most likely to include you in their estate plan? And just take a piece of notebook paper and for each of those 10, write a little plan of all the ways you're going to touch them, all the ways you're going to tell them the impact they've already had on your organization, the good work that they're part of, make them the hero and make the people that you serve the heroes of the story they are helping fund and unfold. I really believe those relationships are at the core of stewardship. It's easy for us to want to overbuild. But if we've learned anything in the past year, I think it is about the power of those relationships and about the power of being back to basics, I guess. The handwritten note, the phone call, eventually maybe the in-person visit when you can wave from a safe distance. I have no idea how many ideas that was. I hope it was at least 6. I want to throw in one more. This is a bonus. I hope all of you, as you track gifts that come to your organization, are noting your donors who are giving from donor advised funds. Donor advised funds are the fastest growing philanthropic tool in the United States. You don't have to spend much time in the Chronicle of Philanthropy or other publications, even the popular press, to know this. They're easy, they're efficient. The Community Foundation of Western North Carolina does a great job, and many of you are probably supported from donor advised funds held there or at the Henderson County Community Foundation or other organizations beyond our immediate region. A question that you can ask of the donors who are giving to you that way is, if there's a plan for the resources in their donor advised fund when they no longer want to use that tool. Many of them might say, well, we plan to just spend out what's there. We're just using it as a charitable checking account and we don't think that there'll be anything left. But some of them might be open to naming your organization as the recipient of resources that will continue on from that fund, or as a sort of contingent beneficiary. If there's no one left to make grant recommendations to our donor advised fund, you should distribute the money to organization X. Those are typically options when folks establish donor advised funds. And if they don't make those instructions, there's some sort of default instruction for what will happen to it, to those resources. So I hope you're noting who's giving to you from donor advised funds in your database and in your stewardship plans. And think about how you might ask that question of those donors. That's my bonus idea for you in this presentation. I want to take questions and answers for the rest of the time. I don't think everybody can unmute at once. It'll be a cacophony. I know how fundraisers are. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can all see each other again, and everyone has lots of screen space to see faces. And I look forward to being in conversation for the rest of our time together.
As people are gathering their questions, I just wanted to call out Jim Brewer made a good comment about CGAs in the chat. I wonder if you could speak to that, Cheryl. And Jim, you may want to say a little bit more on it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna open the chat and read it. So Jim, just unmute and let's talk about it.
Well, you caught me in the middle of eating some delicious homemade korma, but
Good for you.
I like CGAs. The only drawback I see is that they can become a liability against the general assets of an organization if the annuitant outlives the expectancy. And in my experience, that's happened 3 times. So it's not a huge issue, but it is an issue that people need to be aware of.
Absolutely. So I did not ask Jim, I did not cue him to interrupt his korma for that comment, because what I want to share is the solution, a potential solution to that is, and probably for most organizations, the most appropriate solution is not to hold charitable gift annuities inside your organization, to not subject the organization to the fiduciary risk and the financial risk of people who live too long, because everyone with a charitable gift annuity lives too long. This is a fact. So the solution to that is to use a partner. Again, the Community Foundation of Western North Carolina is a potential partner in our region for organizations across the 18 counties of Western North Carolina. I'm now affiliated with the National Gift Annuity Foundation, which is a partner for organizations with donors in any state except Hawaii. If you've got someone in Hawaii, I can't help you. But any state, including the really problematic ones like New York and California, and the National Gift Annuity Foundation can provide, can be the issuing charity for a gift annuity that the proceeds can then benefit any charity anywhere in the US, any qualified charity. So it's a way to be able to offer that tool to donors without taking on any of the financial liability or risk within your organization, and without needing to build an actuarially sound pool of those folks in order to efficiently administer a charitable gift annuity program, because the actuarially sound pool already exists inside the National Gift Annuity Foundation. So it's that's a tool that I've really just recently come to understand how available that is, and how accessible it is for organizations that, may have a situation where our regional partner, Community Foundation, is not the right fit because of the asset, because of where the donor lives, or for other reasons. I'm a big fan of the tool that charitable gift annuities are, and I have a vested interest for my charitable organization friends to be able to offer that option to donors. But thank you, Jim. Other questions? Oh, I got a thumbs up. I hope everyone can see that thumbs up from Jim. He must
Cheryl,
be really enjoying that korma.
just as a follow-up to that, how does that impact the counting of a gift like that to your organization? Would it be a gift from the partner? Would it be a gift, because since they're not writing you a check for
Right, exactly.
Okay.
First, hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
And second, great question. So essentially, that a charitable gift annuity executed in that way, and it would be the same, whatever partner you're using, is for the organization is really an expectancy, right? There's no direct transaction. It's almost like someone's made a bequest, right? They're telling you, we've made a plan. I mean, it's more than a plan. We've made a gift that we hope benefits you. We have to die on time. But so you would treat it, and I'm not super versed in all the counting, the case counting rules and all that, but you would treat it in the same way I would think you would treat it as, for example, a charitable remainder trust held elsewhere, where you can, you're not holding the trust assets and administering the trust, but you're a named remainderman. So for superficial accounting rules, I would think it would be treated much the same way. And I'm sure there are guidelines for that. In terms of stewardship, well, these are people who've already written a check on your behalf, and you get to just figure out all the best ways to love on them and to retain their sense of being heroes for your organization. It's great to see you.
Hi, Cheryl. I have a question regarding charitable gift annuities. And I'm not well versed in that particular mode of giving, but is there like a amount threshold that is considered in order to do that? Because basically you're engaging a second partner, right? You're engaging another partner to manage this money. So like what level of gift is appropriate?
Great question.
Thank you.
And it depends on the partner.
Okay.
They'll have their own guidelines for that. But typically it's in the $10,000 to $20,000 range.
Okay.
So that's a major gift for most of us.
Absolutely.
But remember that that at that level, folks are getting a guaranteed income for life from their gift. The ultimate, the way the formula is designed when the rates are set, it's for half of the original gift amount to be what the organization receives at the end of the donor's life expectancy. So let me just illustrate. If I create a charitable gift annuity today, I am old enough, for $100,000 and name your organization as the ultimate beneficiary. The idea is that if I die on time, no sooner, no later, that $50,000 would proceed to the organization at the time of my death. So there's some time value of money stuff in there. Like I'm the $50,000 that I gave to create that charitable gift annuity today isn't going to has more purchasing power than what you'll get at the end of my lifetime, right? But that's kind of all built into the rate setting formula. And one of the things that's I was going to say amazing, I get really gushy about this, is that is charitable remainder trust, which is the other most common vehicle that pays an income to the donor now, and there's a gift out there later in the future. They are not viable at these levels. They typically, particularly for using a commercial trust company, have much higher thresholds for $1 million, really, and they have ongoing costs that also come into play in terms of the eventual charitable impact and the return to the income beneficiary. Charitable gift annuities are accessible at, at what most of us would consider a significant major gift level, but provide a range of other benefits that we can use to help donors solve other challenges in their financial life paired with a charitable gift. Again, I love to talk about these, but the person who really, really, really loves to talk about these is Becky Davis at the Community Foundation. So feel free to tap Becky's. I'm just offering her up like,
Of course.
like crazy, because she loves them as much as I do, maybe more. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, can I just mention that Becky Davis is on this call?
Becky waved, everyone. Becky Davis should also just unmute and tell us how much she loves charitable gift annuities. I'm gonna call her right out right now.
But I love Cheryl Aikman more and I miss her so much. Okay, there we go. Bye.
Okay, sorry to create a mini reunion right here on the AFP meeting Zoom call. Okay, what other questions do people have? What other great insights do people want to offer? Because like I said, there's 20 people on this call who could make this presentation. And I am looking at you, Elizabeth Hunter, and oh my gosh, look at all of your Wilson Sims, Amanda Edwards. I'm looking at all of your sweet faces and feeling like I couldn't possibly have done this subject justice in the way some of the rest
I
of
have
you
a question.
Yes.
I have a question. Oh, okay. What role does the community foundation, hold on a second. What role does the community foundation play in possibly steering or advising as to what types of charities might possibly benefit from, a donor advised fund?
So I was about to make Becky answer that question too, but I'll take a stab at it. So the Community Foundation's approach is really to first learn. When someone sits down at the Community Foundation, our goal is to learn what their charitable objectives are, and then to help them see what tools might best fit the objectives they want to achieve. And if the Community Foundation's tools, like a donor advised fund, add value to that, then we offer that tool. Donor advised funds, in my experience, are just that, are tools. People don't create them unless they're already charitably minded, and people often don't find their way to creating them unless they're already giving charitably. The Community Foundation, while it provides lots of information, not just to its donor advised fund holders, but to anyone interested in charitable efforts in the community, its role is not to steer people to specific organizations. Its role is to help them help them identify the causes they're most interested in, and then connect them to organizations so that the organizations can tell their own story. And that's something that the Community Foundation takes very seriously in terms of making those connections when people request that. But it's almost like when a neighbor wants a referral to a dentist. You're going to tell them about your dentist, but you might also say, and I hear that X dentist down the street and that other one across town are also good, and they have to make their own choices around that. Folks from the Community Foundation should weigh in, because I don't work there anymore.
Well, this is your presentation, Cheryl.
Yeah, but the question was about you.
So, John, what did Cheryl not answer that you wanted more information on?
No, that was fine. It's just that I've seen in some of the listservs for fundraisers that they're pretty much saying cozy up to the community foundations because they may be able to, they had more colorful language, but they may be able to suggest your organization as a possible recipient of some charitable or some philanthropy. If they're sitting there with somebody and they're asking, hey, what's a good organization out there? What's a good community agency that we might support?
So John, that's a great question. And as many people on this call would know, when they've reached out to me and asked me to share that information with donor advised fund holders, we do not do that at the request of organizations. We will do that at the request of donors. Like for instance, one of our donor advised fund holders this morning asked me what organizations in the area are doing great work with immigrants related to COVID. And luckily, I was able to ask my wife, Virginia Dollar, who works at the Community Foundation in that area, because I know she just finished doing significant amount of research about that, and she responded to me quickly, and I was able to share that information with the donors. So we do that at the request of donors. We do not do that at the request of organizations, if that helps delineate that. When we do hear from donors, we will not typically just share with one organization. We will share with multiple ones, so as not to show this organization is definitely the best in this, unless what they're asking for is so niche that there really is only one organization that provides that level of support to the community.
Thanks, Becky.
Sure.
So Jim had put another item in the chat, which is to talk about life insurance gifts. And I did neglect them in the presentation. So life insurance, the way life insurance can be conveyed to charity, there are a couple paths, but the most typical one, and I actually haven't seen it very often, to tell you the truth, is for a charity to be named as a beneficiary of a policy. So that it works just the same way as the beneficiary designation, that sort of slide with the beneficiary designation form for an IRA. When you take out a life insurance policy, you tell the company who to pay if it comes to that. And naming a charity is one of the options there. There are other ways to give life insurance that get a little more complicated. But any asset, any kind of retirement account, any kind of IRA, simple, Roth, any of those, where there is a form that says, who do we pay when you're dead? Charity can be among the entities named, the people. And charity can be a primary beneficiary, or charity can be if nobody else is left, give it to charity beneficiary. One of the things, and I think this is almost as important as encouraging people to make and review their wills or their other kinds of their living trust documents, is to remind people to check the beneficiary designations on these kinds of assets and plans. I will hold up my hand and tell you that I pulled my life insurance policy 2 days ago, and it does not have the correct beneficiaries listed. It has, it needs to be changed. So we all could stand to check on those things and to encourage our donors to do the same. And again, even if they don't put your organization in one of those slots, even if that doesn't become a moment when they create a gift, if it becomes a moment when they make a change that prevents a lot of heartache or difficulty down the road, that creates a good feeling for them. It all comes back to that brain chemistry. We're trying to create a pattern of interactions. That's what family would tell you to do. Family would tell you to check your beneficiary designations. That's what you would tell your grandma. So those are the kinds of relationships we're trying to build. Oh my gosh, I just can't tell you how exciting it is to see all your faces. What else?
Cheryl, I had a question for you. Hey there.
Hi,
Hi. So you talked about real estate and you said, there are steps that should be taken if someone tells you they want to leave their house or condo or something to you. Could you describe what those steps are?
Allie. Okay. First, deep breath. Second, get as many details as you're comfortable getting, and then continue to collect those details. The challenge that I've experienced and with colleagues have experienced is when that's a surprise. In North Carolina, dirt transfers at the moment of death. So you can own something before you even have an inkling that you do, with all of the challenges that can come with that. Really understanding what the other, Mark Newman just put in the chat with potential environmental problems. But frankly, in our experience, it's been the fact that it was full of stuff. Who's in charge of the stuff? None of us are particularly well equipped to send someone to go pack up people's belongings. So understanding, who is doing that part, what, when that transfer is going to occur, and is that really the best way to do it? I mean, typically, and you and I think many of us have talked about this before, really what you want folks to do, if that's an asset that they want to convey to charity, the best thing for them to do is to tell their executor to dispose of that asset and convey an equivalent proceed, an equivalent amount of money, the proceeds from that particular asset's disposition, to a charity. If folks want to give real estate during their lifetime, that's a little different, and that might be worth a deeper conversation. Again, a look at at partnerships that can help make that be efficient and effective. But again, there's so many people who can attest to this. Having someone leave you the dreaded, here's my house and please use it as a retreat center. This we want to avoid. Hence the questions about the details and the exact nature of that provision. And clarification around all of the above.
I want to be cognizant of time. We're at the official close of the program time-wise, but I know the discussion is not slowing down at all. So,
well,
if folks,
and I'm good. I'll hang out on Zoom all day long.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. If folks need to leave, no hard feelings.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining.
It is an honor to have been asked to speak with and to all of you, and I can't wait until we can all be together and just really share all of our stories. I miss hearing what's going on with all of you, with your donors and with your organizations so much. Any other questions, comments? I know that the AFP officers would probably love to hear any suggestions that folks have, thoughts that you had in the course of this presentation for something that you'd like to hear about in more detail. So feel free to put that in the chat or shout it out. And my contact information's in the chat. It'll be in the slides that we'll also send out. And I encourage you to reach out to me at any point if there's a way I can be of service, of help, a point of connection for any of you.
Hey, Cheryl, I had a quick question. Would you be able to talk a little bit more about when is the best time to bring up legacy gifts to donors? Like, I know you talked about like forming the relationship and having that ongoing relationship with them, but when do you bring it up? Is it organically when they ask about it, or is it like through presentations? What's the best way to avoid sort of awkwardness in that area?
And if I knew the hi Brendan,
Hi.
if I knew the perfect answer to that, none of us would be here. We would all have all the money we need, and yeah. So organically, I think is the word, and then the other word is all the time. So certainly, not when you're knee to knee with someone, but reminding your donors all the time that these are ways they can support your organization, that your organization is open and actively seeking this kind of support. The other thing, and this is where going back and digging into some of that Russell James research and some of his slideshows, I cannot recommend to you highly enough. But it's creating what he calls social norming around that kind of giving. So telling stories, whether that's, in whatever mediums your organization uses, print, email newsletters, videos, whatever it might be, in the context of events, using folks who have made that kind of gift, planned for that kind of gift to your organization, to tell their story so that folks can recognize themselves and can feel empowered, encouraged, and like it's possible for them to make that same kind of gift. So it really is providing the power of example, and the nearer those examples can be to real life, to the demographics of the donors you're trying to encourage, and couched in that authentic social family language instead of transactional market language, the better that case will be. It's also, I've really come to appreciate, it is listening, and it is knowing that in every conversation there is the possibility of a clue that you cannot act on in the moment, but that helps build a sense of that donor's entire perspective and life, that will give you the opening you need to make an authentic ask of them that is fully respectful of their relationship and what they've revealed. That all sounds kind of ooey gooey, but it really does come down to that, and down to that deep listening. The other person whose work in this area I really around, like, how do you have the conversation, that I really like is a woman named Pamela Davidson. She hasn't spoken around here in a while, I don't think. But she has a whole, and you can probably find out on the internet, she had a whole presentation that was called, I Don't Know Much About You, But. And it was all sorts of gift planning scenarios where essentially the riff was, I don't know much about you, but if you're taking care of an elderly parent, I have ideas for you. It was a way to it's a structure for integrating gift planning ideas into real life situations that people might be encountering. And her stance was, you're telling them you don't know, but you're telling them you have a solution if they recognize themselves in that social example. So and lots of her stuff is available online for you to peruse.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for your question.
Cheryl, any creative stewardship ideas for planned giving donors? I have our little Valentine's card right here, but.
Okay, well, Mark, tell us more about your Valentine's card, because I think that's a pretty creative stewardship idea.
So we either do Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day, one of the two. We sort of intertwine each year, but we send it to all of our Bannerman Society, which is our Legacy Society folks, just to say how much we love them and appreciate them. It's not an ask. It's not anything, pressure. It's just a fun little cheap, costs less than $150 to do, about 100 of them, printing. And we just do a little message on it. We sometimes use the white space to put something personal, but other than that, and this is donated art to us. So this year we did a fun one with actual donated art of hearts. But
beautiful.
I
think those touches are so important. I think mail has become so important this year because all of us need something to look forward to. Like that's usually the point where I leave the house the first time, is to go to the mailbox. If I would add to just that dynamic of an unexpected, sort of reaching out on an unexpected holiday, perhaps, would be if you can engage staff, constituents, board members in writing those messages and personalizing those messages. It was mentioned that I'm currently on the board at Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy, and I wrote a whole slew of "We love you so much" cards week before last, so that they could be mailed in time for Valentine's Day, and that was a way for me as a board member to spend a couple hours doing something truly heartfelt. And hopefully that just brightened people's days, in addition to conveying how much we appreciate them. So I think everyone's constituents are really different, but I do think knowing who are your 10 that you've got to be taking care of, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 25. How do you divide that group among staff so that folks are being touched in extremely personal ways? If they've particularly those people that have included you in their plan, whatever you call your legacy society, or even if you don't have one, but that you're in their plan, they've made your organization the equivalent of a family member. So how would you as a family member be reaching back to that elder through that relationship to just brighten their day and let them know how much you appreciate them? And I love the card. Hold it up again. Let's all see that again. Hold it up again. Oh yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing.
One anecdote is we started doing these 2 years ago. After the first one, we had one of our plan giving folks say, we're doubling our plan gift to you based on that.
Okay, well, there you go. We should just like leave on that, because it doesn't happen every year, but when it does, it's big, right?
Yep.
All right. I know folks who haven't had lunch are hungry. Those of you who have had lunch probably have other things to do. I'm glad to hang out, but don't feel like you can't move on in your lives if you need to. And it's really just so great to see all y'all's faces.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Ben, Kelly, do you have any closing reminders or anything that you need to share with the group?
Just another plug for March 17th and the great program we're going to have there on Major Gift Ask with Diane Carlson, and the members only event, which will immediately follow. Diane Carlson's at 12:30, members only at 1:30.
Is that bring your own green beer that day?
That's right.
Right? Yeah, okay.
Well, Mark's off the call. I can't make a joke.
He's going to send everyone a card?
Yeah.
He's going to send everyone a St. Patrick's Day card? Okay. Thank you all so much. Please reach out if I can be a resource to you or connect you to other resources. That's I'm still right here in Asheville in my basement, and really would love the opportunity to work with any of you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Cheryl.